Welcome back to Reading Bear. Today, we will take a look at some new revenge stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
First one is titled, Leave Me Your Leftovers? Two can play at that. So this is a short little tale that I'm comfortable sharing now that I left the company that this happened at. I worked at a smallish company for a good 5 years delivering gravel and asphalt with dump trucks. My boss, who we will refer to as Fred, was a nice enough guy. He would often fill in for us truckers when one of the four of us had to take a sick day or went on vacation. The only downside to Fred doing this was the man was always eating. It wasn't an unusual occurrence to get back from your days off to find food wrappers throughout your truck. As annoying as this was, we put up with it until it got worse. He started leaving uneaten food in the trucks as well. We all confronted him about it and he apologized and said it wouldn't happen again. But it did, or this would be much of a story. I wasn't able to come in over the weekend to run a load like I normally do, so Fred ran it for me. When I got in on Monday, I found a half-eaten rotisserie chicken sitting on my passenger seat. Now it didn't smell great, but it wasn't nothing that rolling the windows down for a bit wouldn't fix. I was upset and ready to trudge over to the dumpster when I noticed Fred's work pickup parked on backside of the lot where we keep our heavy equipment. Not super uncommon for the boss to park there and get a lift from the owner of the company to check out a new job they wanted to bid on. Thinking he'll get the message, I leave the chicken on his passenger seat. Now what I didn't know was that Fred did get a lift from the owner, but that was Sunday night. Fred was starting his 2-week vacation and felt the company truck would be better left at the company than in his driveway for someone to steal. He was wrong. I wasn't there to see, but my coworker told me he watched Fred open up his door after waving to his wife, who dropped him off and with almost no hesitation started to vomit. My coworker ran over to him and said he could smell it well before he reached the truck. I guess 2-week-old rotten chicken baking in the sun-sealed truck doesn't smell very good. I worked there for about 3 years after that whole thing happened, and he was still trying to figure out who did it because he apparently didn't remember leaving that chicken in my truck that weekend. And P.S. he never left food in any trucks after that. Next one is titled, Tell Everyone I'm the Highest Paid Employee? Pay me while I go on medical leave. My story starts off as mundane as anybody's. 5 years into working for an enormous corporation, my group was reorg, ed. This particular reorg was, like most efforts, a half-baked idea ginned up by a suit in a corner office, questionably planned, poorly executed and terribly communicated. Nonetheless, I was sent from my old group to a brand new, to me, group managed by Jim. Jim seemed an okay fellow, with a dry sense of humor and a British accent that lulled me into thinking he was a decent guy. Working for Jim was okay. He was never available, and when we did meet maybe once a month he'd bark off a list of things for me to do, then say he had a conflict and had to go to another call. I was floundering a little but felt I had a handle on things. During my first annual review via phone, Jim offered up vanilla platitudes about how things were going well, while I heard him distractedly typing away at IMs from people pinging him. He paused when he got to my salary and hedged a bit. So I got you a small increase. I couldn't get you much. To be frank, I'm not going to question how anyone arrives at their salary level, but you make way more than the other people on my team. It was awkward, but not the first time I've had such a pointed salary discussion with a male manager. It's never been a talking point with any of the women who managed me, and I wondered if he would have made those comments to me if I were a man. I've managed teams over the years and noticed the women on my teams seem to make less than their male counterparts, so I get I'm an anomaly. But, I'm a high performer in a 25-year uninterrupted career, as I never chose to have children. I've worked hard for my salary and I'm proud of it. I could get hired elsewhere at this salary in my market easily given my experience, qualifications, and certifications. Shortly after our review, Jim moved on to work with my primary group of business partners, leaving me with no manager, just a 2-up manager I'd never met or spoken to. And that's when the poo hit the fan. Unbeknownst to me at the time, My salary was brought up in a discussion with his new team, the fine ladies who were managers of the teams I worked with in my business partner group. As it's been relayed to me, Jim didn't blurt out the specific details of course, but when one of the women complained about something I'd done, Jim said he was surprised there were issues because I was the highest paid person on his, now former, team. He poisoned the well quite nicely for me. Going back through my emails I could pinpoint the date and time the remark was said because the tone of every single one of those managers changed as if on a dime. If I asked a question, I was berated because, "You're our most senior analyst. You should know that." Documentation that had sufficed before was suddenly all wrong. There were two particularly hostile culprits, Pat, who managed to report on the systems we were migrating, and her underling PM, Wanda. Pat came at me quick, fangs bared, with a demand that I put together a plan to get us to the next generation of reporting which wasn't due to be released until 2021. The 2021 plan Wanda, her PM, had put together, looked like notes on a greasy cocktail napkin, so Pat decided that since I was the SME, I should do Wanda's work for her instead. Pat wanted a plan from today, in 2019 through to the date of release in May 2021. According to her, it had to include all the tasks needed for delivery right from the start, which is not how planning works. I can't predict the future, so my plans usually start out detailed in the near term, with increasingly wider swaths of more generalized tasks to be elaborated in detail as we get further along. This is an industry standard approach, and was never a problem, right up until it was. Pat started hounding me relentlessly to get this full plan done for her in 5 days, which would have been an impossible task under the best of circumstances. Nonetheless, I put together a 2,000-line long plan, working evenings and over the weekend, because my arms had been in pain for several months from typing at my home office and I had to take frequent breaks from the pain. Note: I had been made a remote employee against my will, and when I was reorged I started asking for a desk back at work. Jim always dismissed my request, saying there was no space, so I spent over $1,500 on an ergonomic chair and desk for my home to make typing easier. But my arms still hurt anytime I sat at the keyboard for more than a half hour. I had to back burner my more immediate, pressing work for upcoming releases in the next couple of months because Pat told me I had to prioritize her work over everything else. I had no manager to help redirect my priorities back to my other work, and when I tried to say it would have to wait until I finished my more pressing work, Pat sighed and bitterly said in front of a half-dozen people including Wanda, "So you're our most senior SME and you're telling me you can't do the work?" Pat then decided to up the ante by insisting I run every element of the plan I was creating for Wanda by Wanda, a junior-level PM who not only didn't understand the systems we were using, I had to tell her how to create her own status reports, but wrote at a third-grade level. Even the subject-verb agreement is out of Wanda's grasp. But she had a chip on her shoulder and now she believed she could tell me what to do and how to do it. It was like a teacup poodle trying to guide a Rottweiler. Wanda was immediately and clearly out of her element, and obviously so. As a result, every single time she was caught ducking up, she threw me right under the bus. She'd preemptively throw me under the bus too. Wanda's only talent was deflecting blame and painting herself as the victim. I didn't know what to do. I was having anxiety attacks. My heart would start racing to 145 BPM on the couch at night when I started thinking about work. I was overwhelmed and my arms were killing me, and then the unthinkable happened. My mom suddenly died. When I told the team, they were not only completely unsympathetic, they were upset. I had to take a week of bereavement, and this, too, upset them as I was leaving the day before the deadline Pat had given me to finish Wanda's plan for the 2021 project. Instead of packing for the funeral or connecting with my family, I spent the 3 days before my leave working late nights trying to finish the plan. We met at 5 p.m. the day before I was to go on leave, where Pat and Wanda ripped into my plan, and said they would work with another team member to fix all of my mistakes in the week I was gone. Finally free of the evil twins, I went on leave. And while on leave, my arms stopped hurting. After 6 weeks of physical therapy for my arm problems, just not typing for a while helped immensely. I had 2 days left before I had to go back to the hellhole, and I was dreading it. When the heart palpitations started up again, I knew I couldn't go back. At first, I decided I would just quit the day I was supposed to return. I didn't want to even give them 2 weeks' notice, I hated them so much. They had been so cruel about me taking bereavement leave. I wanted to duck them over, good and proper. No 2 weeks' notice meant I'd leave them hanging for their near-term releases that I'd not been allowed to finish up my work for, as well as for the 2021 plan. And if I burned a bridge or my reputation, so what? I'm nearing the age where people usually retire or have a major career change. I don't need to keep that bridge any longer. I have saved up enough, and damn it, my health was more important to me than these toxic people or my paycheck. The night I decided to quit, I went to sleep relieved and not anxious, for the first time in 6 months. I felt the anxiety leaving me, knowing I wouldn't have to work with those people ever again. It felt like a solid plan. Then the next morning I woke up with a plan even more brilliant. It checked all my boxes. I wouldn't have to go back to work. I wouldn't have to give 2 weeks' notice, so they'd still be ducked. I would still get paid. And I would be able to take care of my arms that had been in pain for so long. And while I'm at it, manage the anxiety that had spiraled out of control because of my hostile coworkers. My new and improved plan was simple. Take medical leave. I needed protected medical leave in the form of FMLA, which for those not in the US, provides up to 12 weeks of leave where my specific job role and salary must be protected and available to me upon my return. And because it was medical leave, I was automatically enrolled in short-term disability, for which my company will pay 100% of my salary for 8 weeks and then 65% of my salary for the remaining weeks I'm out. The best part of this plan is it ducks over all the people I want to duck over, and it's all 100% legit. I had been having problems keeping up at work because of all the doctor's visits I had for my arms, physical therapy, regular therapy for my anxiety that had gotten out of control, and a psychiatrist. My health issues were eating into my workday, causing me to have to work early mornings, nights and weekends more than ever, and no doubt pissing off these people who thought I was making too much money to be deserving of any time off for doctor's appointments. My team got a new manager after 6 weeks, coincidentally just the day before I was to come back from bereavement. I was sneakily logged onto work every day to catch his name, and I stealthily dialed into the conference call where he was introduced to the team. The 2-up manager that I've never spoken to even said at the outset, "I think we have everyone on the bridge. This job is gonna kill me, won't be here, she's on bereavement." I called up the administrators of our FMLA and short-term disability plans to file my claim. I got the forms and figured out which of my half-dozen doctors had to fill what out. My orthopedist signed me off for 12 weeks of absence straight away because she noted I'd been in pain since May, so it would likely take a while to heal. After talking with her, my PT and my psychiatrist, I will likely do physical therapy for 6 weeks and then enroll in a program for anxiety and stress management for the remaining 6 weeks before returning. All covered by my insurance and all free because I met my out-of-pocket maximum halfway through the year due to a hospital stay for a different medical issue. The night before I was due back, I sat there grinning while looking at the next morning's 8 a.m. calendar invite from Wanda. In her illiterate fashion, she had written, "It is important all crucial partners makes every effort to attend this call." Like most of Wanda's obnoxiously illiterate declarations, it was a dig at me because I'd said in my last call with her and Pat that I might not be able to log on until 9 a.m. on the day I returned from leave. I opened a new window and typed out to my new manager, "Dear Phil, I hate that this is our first introduction to each other, but while I was attending my mother's funeral an ongoing medical issue resurfaced and I need to take medical leave immediately." I went on to inform him I'd been hospitalized a couple of months back and there were other issues that were preventing me from returning to work, and he could get the details from my prior manager Jim. Not that Jim paid a damn bit of attention to the emails I sent him detailing my doctor's visits, etc., even as he had moved on from being my manager, because I still had to let him know about all my absences until I got a new manager. As things got worse at work, I became more clear in my details about my pain with typing getting worse. hoping it might make Jim realize the situation was getting worse, but he never listened. So here I sit on a beautiful fall Friday morning, getting paid 100% of my salary to write this. Jim wasn't happy about my salary when I was working for him. I wonder how happy he is about my salary knowing I'm not having to work for it right now. When I return, I won't be on the 2 projects with upcoming releases. One will have already released. The other will release less than 4 weeks after I come back. So they're ducked on that. I wonder if they've figured out the test documents for November haven't been signed off yet. I was supposed to finalize them for sign-off, but Pat forced me to prioritize Wanda's 2021 project over the November work, so the test documents are still sitting locally on my work desktop, untouched. I will also be returning with a requirement for accommodations, which I am now entitled to as I've learned I qualify for them under the AITA. No more telling me I have to work from home or hunch over a table in the break room if I want to be in the office. I'm working with an occupational therapist to draft up what those accommodations will be, but a height-adjustable desk, 2 large monitors, and a distraction-free workspace are the top-line requirements. Meanwhile, my treatment plans include exercise, trail walks, both regular therapy and physical therapy, and a weekly massage as well. I've added in long visits to the library to read all the books I've been wanting to catch up on, and nice lunches a couple times a week to the mix. Several times throughout the day I'll look at my watch while walking the trails with my dog, or just relaxing, and I smile broadly thinking about Pat and Wanda's important project plan for 2021. Wonder what poor sod they've roped in to help her finish it now. I still may just quit right after I return, or they can just fire me. I'd be indifferent about that. But at least this way I'll have milked 12 more weeks of payout of these aholes, while benefiting from all the free medical and emotional assistance my insurance plan can buy. They say living well is the best revenge, and I can't think of a company or a group of people who deserve my pro-revenge more. The end. Thanks for listening.